Welcome to the Better Two podcast. I'm your host, Donna. Today's guest is Justin Warfield of the band Warfield. Justin and I talk about music, we talk about AI, we talk about mysticism and late night dining, and so much more. So tune in. Give Me All Your Lovin', The Groupie Diaries, Book 1. Wendy Mead loves spending her Friday and Saturday nights gazing up at Beau Bear, the man she knew she could fall in love with since the first time she saw him. Beau Bear, a man with a plan to get the Bear Brothers band signed. Then, not only his life, but the lives of his brothers and his best friend Scott would be set. Traveling the world, touring with Scott and his brothers, and doing the one thing he truly loved, making music, which is all that he needed. Scott Kay, Beau's best friend and the band's guitarist, was slowly realizing that while he loved making music, he wasn't sure he could handle all that came with it. Sure, he loved the fact that women threw themselves at him, but he knew his life was spiraling out of control and had to make a change. One night before a show, Wendy finally decided to show Beau one of her many talents. While they made plans to get together after the show, those plans changed, and she ends up taking Scott home. It was a night that would alter all of their lives and give them memories they'd never forget. It's a standalone novel with open door spice. Pick up your copy of Give Me All Your Lovin', The Groupie Diaries, Book 1 at most online resellers. Hi, Justin. How are you doing today?
Now we could be putting on lip stuff. I'm great. How are you?
I am good. I am very good. I spent most of the afternoon listening to your record. And I have to say it was a callback to the 80s, and I know goth and everything else, but it was really just a callback to the early 80s, and it was great. It really was.
Thank you so much.
And I mean, I'm Gen X, so I kind of know those things, but
Guilty as charged. Yeah.
So I don't want to, one of the things you talked about in the press release was that you kind of went at this as an aging man and facing your mortality. And I kind of understand that because I had cancer this summer, and it was kind of like, hey, you have to face your mortality. And you're like, you don't want to do that. But yet sometimes you're just forced to. You don't think about being older. You just think about, I'm still living my life. So how did that translate into this record?
Well, first off, I'm so sorry, and I hope that you are in a good place with that. And good. That's most important. When I said that, I didn't anticipate that being sort of a talking point about things. But I think it's what's interesting is just like I can't avoid the fact that I've been making records since I was 16 years old. Like not just making music, but putting out vinyl and CDs and cassettes since I was 16 years old. I'm 52. My outlook on life, on my life, the way I look at my existence, the time I have left, the joy I find in it, the way I approach everything is obviously coming through this body, through this experience, these emotions, the good and bad, right? So because I felt like I was tapping into music that was from a bygone era, right? Because I'm not at a point in my life as a 52-year-old father, husband, I'm not talking about going to a club and meeting a girl and, the perils of dating and some of the things that I, covered exhaustively and I think quite well in the early days of She Wants Revenge when I was a single person in my 30s. I was living that life and coming out of my 20s and writing about my 20s, right? So much in a different place right now. I think that where we're at as a country, as a planet, and there's so many things that we face that I can't help but as an artist be honest and true to what we're experiencing and what I'm experiencing. So the long version of this is the way mortality plays into it is just like the anxieties, the fears, the concerns, looking back, coming to a point in my life where I'm like, I've lived this, but I feel that maybe I'm not the best narrator of my own story. I'm an unreliable narrator as the writer of my own story because you tell your story so many times you're like, am I telling the story? Or am I telling the story of the story? And so I think it's a lot. But I will say, I've had a lot of friends die over the last decade. And, talking about this era, I would be remiss if I didn't carry, creating music that feels like it's of this era, accidentally, and then leaning into it. I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge where we're at right now, societally, me emotionally. And so I feel like there's undertones of that there is a sort of paranoia, an anxiety, a darkness, a sense of fear, but also a sense of exuberance. Because I feel like that the album is one of the most youthful things I've ever done, which is the strange sort of dichotomy.
But maybe, here the old adage of with age comes wisdom. You can reflect back and think of those jubilant times. You can capture that essence because you truly experienced it. If you look at today, society, yes, we have the technology to do this, which is awesome. But so many people are glued to their phones that, when we would go to concerts back in the day, there was no thing of let me hold my phone up and capture the whole thing. It was you're there, you watch it and you enjoy it for the moment.
Yeah.
And that feeling is not captured by so many people now because we're filming it. We're archiving it.
Yeah, 100%. And even more so, I don't feel that people are archiving it to archive it. I feel that people are archiving it to show that they were there. I don't believe that. I mean, if you're talking about Grateful Dead and that sort of circuit of tapers, people are documenting it because they truly love the music. This is very different. I mean, I'm a huge Los Angeles Lakers fan, and I noticed a trend a couple of years ago where I started going to games in the seats I always sit in, and in front of me and behind me and to left and right were all these people that didn't have regular seats that they went to, and so they were just coming for the event. And I noticed a lot of people, doing their hair, doing this thing. And I was like, one of the greatest ever do it's on the court. What are you doing? And they had their shirt, their hot dog, their mug, or whatever. Sorry, their cup with the logo and their whole thing. And I think to me, people want to say, look at my great sandwich. Look at this great concert. Look at the sandwich that I break like this. Isn't it perfect? I mean, when I see these things, unless you are selling something and your income and your sort of livelihood and that of others depends on it, I understand that sort of promotion. But when I'm sitting there at a diner and my phone's down and I'm just waiting for my food or eating my salad, that quiet, reflective time is the entirety of the playground of the artist and is the fertile playground for the imagination. It's where we work through our concerns, our obsessions, our fears, our joys, our ideas. It's literally an open canvas. But we don't allow ourselves as human beings open canvases anymore because we're always feeding ourselves stimuli. And I think the idea that the default of most people as a result of technology, as a result of these corporations that are just data mining us with things that are and inundating us with things that are interesting to learn about our patterns to sell us more things, and as a result of reality television, which I feel is one of the most single greatest killers of culture on the planet. The idea that somebody would spend that 5 minutes waiting for their sandwich or their salad or their pancakes at the diner, doing something performative to put out into the world as the default, like I'm going to take a picture of this thing or I'm going to talk to this thing. It's so wild to me that we are a culture of output and not input anymore. And for me, as somebody who has the good fortune of having output as a way to make a living and fulfill my creative needs and wants, I need to have constant input. And that input needs to be from the natural world and from people, places, and things, and not content creators or people that are performing. So the idea of going to a concert and doing this to me has nothing to do about how great Kevin Parker from Tame Impala is at that show, or Jack White, or, Boy Genius, or whoever it is that you're seeing. It's entirely, I was there. And like that to me is very, very, very toxic.
To To be honest, okay, I was at Live Aid. I was in the crowd during Led Zeppelin, and I wasn't even
Fuck.
standing on my feet. So here's the thing. How would you even comprehend that moment of trying to stylize that whole thing when you're being crushed, when you're dying of thirst? I mean, that's a totally different concert experience than the person going, let me just, yeah, it was being there. It was
But
the,
also, like, you're 100% like, by the way, I'm so jealous. I love that. But I don't think that the people who are doing that are actually enjoying themselves. It's
no,
the same thing where a lot of my friends who are DJs in Los Angeles said that, like, the death of club culture and DJ culture in Los Angeles, and really New York and globally at that point, because it all happens. Everything's connected. We don't live on, islands. Everyone's interconnected at this point. When bottle service came, yes, because then it was not, we're going to get the coolest, most interesting people in a room. We're going to get the people who'll pay the most. But secondarily, when people stopped dancing and they just sat on the back of booths with phones, filming each other, because then it was just like a bunch of people with cameras. And it's, I know it sounds like we're just a couple of, like, whatever they would say boomers, but a bunch of Gen Xers bemoaning, but it's not progress. I'm not a get off my lawn person. I love the music of 17 to 20, 22-year-olds who are putting out the most cutting edge, interesting stuff. I love the idea of people pushing forward and challenging my ideas about film and art and cinema and literature, and me going, whoa, that's not the stuff of my youth. But man, I have an 18-year-old. I am continually learning about something new. This is not a get off my lawn thing. This is put down your phone and experience something.
live
And
life.
because, yeah, like if I go to Hawaii or if I go on tour and I take photos of these things, I don't usually post it until later. And the reason is simply because I'm too busy experiencing it. So later when I'm flipping through my phone, I go, oh, I never posted that picture of that killer sunset or of that incredible beach or of that concert, where I took a picture of the crowd, not of the band, just to go, look how many people are here at Oasis. Like, whatever the thing is, I will do that later. And if there is even a sense of, this is a flex, I was there. It's like keeping your ticket stub from Live Aid. It's like, it's the same thing. It's like, this is something cool I did and I want to share that. But it's not so that you can think that I'm cool or for acceptance. It's, can we find connection over this photograph? Can we spark a dialogue? And I think that we need a real reset as a society in order for that to become something
Well,
that.
even talking about music. So I was an on-air personality for a couple of radio stations. The first radio station I worked at in 93, I got to pick everything. I could take requests and everything else. 95, I went to a different station. Everything was computerized. So if you called in and asked for a song, sorry.
Yeah.
And I mean, once
Yeah,
again,
there's no more carts. There's no more carts.
right. No more
You're right
cart deck. And it's like, no more CDs. And it's like, what am I supposed to do? Well, I'll play your song. It'll eventually get there because we have the same rotation over and over and over again. And that's the thing. It's like we are now just basically a society of, here, you're told to do this. You're told to listen to this. This is going to be the next big thing. And it's like, but what if I don't want it that way?
Yeah.
What if I want something? And I want to talk about something because you were talking about you were talking about that moment where you're just taking everything in. And it wasn't lost on me when I heard no party and you're mentioning the waxing moon and setting intentions. And I'm like, And then there was something else about the mystic and lighting candles. And I'm like, well, so where are we at with the metaphysical?
So that's really interesting. It's the first time that I've ever written about things overtly. And the reason for that is it, like, honestly, like, I write in a very stream of consciousness way. I don't write with intention. Now, when I say that, I sit down to write, right? But I don't go in with a preconceived idea. All of the lyrics that I write in any project are almost always come to me when I'm driving. So I put on the song when I'm driving and I hear it and I just start singing. And whatever comes out, not just melodically, but lyrically, I take as a breadcrumb trail that it's my job to follow. So, for example, the song No Party, I'm sorry, the song All the Fun, I came up with the riff and I just recorded that song within like maybe like 30 minutes. I heard the riff in my head. I started playing guitar and bass. I'm like, oh my God. I turned this drum machine up as fast as it would go before it would sound ridiculous. I recorded it in like 20 minutes or less. And then I just was like, I got to write lyrics. So I sat down and the first thing that I wrote down was, Tiffany eyes dead set, so sadistic from the look on her face, you swear she's a mystic. Like, I know where that comes from. I heard the guitar part because I've been doing this long enough that sometimes I don't see the connections and sometimes I do. So when I did that guitar thing, I thought, whoa, that sounds so much like Romeo's Distress, which made sense because the album is dedicated to John Albert, who is my dear friend who had passed 2 years ago, who was a founding member. And Roz, and he started that band in his garage and his basement. And we talked a lot about this stuff leading up to what would become this project, right? When I did the first guitar thing, I thought, wow, that also sounds like, so I'm like, oh, it sounds kind of like, the dude from the Adolescents and a Rick Agnew. It sounds like a Rick Agnew guitar thing and like a Christian Death. But man, it also sounds like a cool Daniel Ash thing. And I just played it and I was like, this is rad. So then it was definitely had echoes of Bauhaus. And for some reason, I thought about that song, Kick in the Eye by Bauhaus. Then the first lyric of the song is Tiffany eyes, kick in the eye, Tiffany eyes. Now, that's really weird, the way that our brain and synapses fire. So I go, Tiffany eyes, dead set. So, and Tiffany eyes, I'm like, that's a crazy word. It could mean that somebody is sort of materialistic, right? Thinking about little blue boxes from Tiffany's. And that's what I was thinking of. It had nothing to do with the song, but it sounded cool. So I said, Tiffany eyes dead set, so sadistic from the look on her face, you swear she's a mystic. And I'm like, I love that opening line. I just sat down and wrote everything out, and it took me about 5 minutes. And it all came from just hearing Tiffany eyes, Tiffany eyes, Tiffany eyes in my head. When I did No Party, that song had gone through a lot of incarnations over about a year. It's a song that had been sitting around, and I just chopped up and changed and did all this. It was an idea about, very simple on its face, a couple of girls looking for something to do and there was nothing to do, sort of bored in Los Angeles. There's echoes of Walking in LA by, Missing Persons. There's echoes of the Go-Go's This Town, which I played this song for for my favorite Go-Go, and she was very complimentary, and that was really exciting. And I'm not going to say anything about that because there might be something later coming that's exciting there. So I want to tease that. And then I guess through the act of doing it, something came out that was unintentional. So the mysticism, the spirituality, the witch stuff, very simple. And the abbreviated version is, I took my car to be fixed in Silver Lake, and I was getting like the brakes done or flat fixed, I forget. And I walked, and I just kept walking, and I was like, I'm going to walk to my friend's store, and it's called Spellbound Sky. And now it's in the desert near in Palm Springs, but it used to be in Silver Lake. And it's owned by these two incredible men, Mark and Martin. They're a couple who've probably been together like 30 years. And they're also like Mark's a witch. I'm sorry, Martin's a witch. And they own this incredible store where they sell crystals and candles for spells and oils and beads. And it's one of the most special places. I would say magical, but that would be pretty redundant. But it really is a special place. And my son they're sort of like godfathers to my son, and they're very dear friends of my wife. It turns out they were actually at one of the third She Wants Revenge show ever at this little bar called Silver Lake Lounge before I even met my wife. So when she said, I started dating this guy, he's got this band, they're like, we were at that show and there's like 50 people there. And so these guys have been a part of my life for a long time. All that to say, I walked into the store to get a candle because I just wanted my studio to smell nice. Mm-hmm. And they weren't there, but there was another guy behind the counter who looked incredible, and he had great style, and he was gorgeous, and he was tall and really interesting and covered in tattoos, and something about him was very striking. And I was asking about these candles, and he's like, well, those you have to burn and not extinguish. You have to let them, like, they're for spells. And I was like, okay, but I love the way this one looks, and it's for like unlocking creativity. It's really interesting, and I want this one. And then I also want this one that like casts away like bad energies and like for time of renewal and cleansing. So he's like, okay, you can't burn this one while you do this one, and this will, and he gave me the whole rundown. And then I was like, okay, and I also want to buy this and this. And so I brought some stuff to the counter, and he said, I know your wife. And I'm like, oh, that's amazing. We start talking, and then he's like, I also know your music. And I was like, oh, okay. Turns out he's a DJ. Turns out that his preferred genre is death rock. And it turns out that he's like, I think I know a group that you're going to love. And he proceeds to send me a link to a group called Diavel Strain. And it's, I think they call it's two artists from Chile. And I think they call it Riot Wave. So it's blending Riot Girl with darkwave.
Okay.
And it's this incredible, dark, queer core, electronic, just incredible. And I was like, this is my favorite new thing. Like, I listened to it like, oh my God. And I was like, dude. And he's like, let me send you a playlist. And I'm like, I've been obsessed with like the world you're talking about lately and making this music. And we started talking. So I also have a friend who sells his jewelry there, and the company's called Wax and Wayne. And so I think that it's probably because of that. Now, what's wild is that song was recorded well before that time. So like, I don't know, but the idea to include that song, it's totally unintentional, because it's not a song that's about that stuff. It's about driving around LA. It feels like, you know, the B-52s and the Go-Go's and the Cramps, but I don't know, it's all there.
But to be fair, why that stood out to me is because I'm a tarot reader, because I've taught candle magic, because that's why it.
Yeah, I could tell. I mean, if you're going to ask that stuff, then you know, and like, I don't. I'm a tourist in that, but somebody who's open to such things. I mean, I definitely, yeah.
I used to have candles in my room. I had candles in my room, and my friend came over, and she looked at me. She was a witch. She was a practicing witch. And she just looks at me and she goes, and you say you're not a witch. I'm like, excuse me? She goes, this, my friend, is an altar. And I'm like,
yeah.
And then I'm from New Orleans on top of it. So
you're from New Orleans. Okay. That's a lot of mojo. So when I was 18 or 19, I think that's how old I was, my best friend from high school and I met a woman who was like, she called herself a psychic. And she did a group in the Valley, here in San Fernando Valley. And we went along with my best friend's mom, and 3 girls that we were really close with in our friend group. And we were just kids that would drive around LA, go to clubs, go to parties, drink, whatever. Like, and we started going to see this. They were like, you got to see the psychic. I forget who brought her into our awareness. And we went for like a private reading. And then it was like, I do a group if you want to come. And we started going to this group. And it was really amazing. And so I have the tapes from the psychic that she made years ago. And this woman was really, her name was Janae, and she was really amazing. And like, you look at her, you're like she fits the part in every single way. And her husband, who would be around, let's just say this, it became very clear later that she was a witch and that her husband was a warlock. Bald head, the sort of, you know, the sort of facial hair. And so I brought this guy who was kind of like a big brother character to me, who is like, had a history in like a weird culty church that I came up in, which is a whole other story. And I brought him because he was always very, very into spirituality and religion. And I brought him, and I was like, dude, wasn't it the best? And like in the car, he was really quiet after. And he goes, dude, that's a coven. And I was like, what? Dude, it's like she's a psychic and it's like a group and we talk about this. He's like, yeah, dude, that's a coven. And like it was, but like I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah, I
And
get
like
it.
he was afraid, but I thought it was really cool. And so I don't pretend to know about such things, but obviously I've always been open to them.
And that's fair. I mean, that's how you learn things, by being open. I mean, some people will sit there just because you read tarot and say, "Well, that's the devil. You're a devil worshiper." And I laugh because I was born on Friday, October 13th in New Orleans. So I'm about as messed up as anybody that would be so super, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, red flag on the play all over the place here. But, I'm me, and it's fine.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is Friday the 13th runs in my family in October on both
That's funny.
sides.
I was born on Good Friday,
Nice. So it was a very good Friday.
apparently.
So, another thing you talked about is late night diners. And I know that that is not such a thing anymore, because I don't know about out in LA, but, the news has talked about Denny's closing. And how many people grew up, yeah, they're closing down a bunch of Denny's. And how many people would go hang out at Denny's after a club or another diner?
Yeah.
But
I
those
mean,
things are fading.
where are you located right now, by the way?
Right now, I'm outside of Chicago, about 100 miles outside of Chicago.
So, like, in LA, we have real spoils of riches of late night dining that was like incredible, incredible places from like late night 24-hour Jewish deli to pizzerias to a famous place in the 80s we had, which was like a Russian cafeteria called Gorky's that was downtown and in Hollywood. That was like where every like seamster and musician and artist would go. In places like New York, you had Florent, which is where you'd have Jean-Michel Basquiat and Madonna and all these other incredible people after in the meatpacking district, like after all the clubs and danceteria and a lot of these places all closed down. And COVID, it's because of COVID. It's because of inflation. It's because of rising wages, which is important, and rising minimum wage. It's because the workforce here in Los Angeles got accustomed to unemployment for a year and a half. And then when going back to work, it was like, I don't know if I really want to work at this job anymore. It's because of changing habits. In Los Angeles, we had 2 union strikes that nearly decimated the film and TV and commercial industry. So all my friends that own restaurants, it's been a real change. And when COVID happened, my friend, who is one of the sort of great cultural architects of our time, who created some of the greatest, nightclubs, bars, and restaurants in Los Angeles, this guy named John Seidel, who also was really a part of this record because he connected me to Cleopatra Records. But we were having a conversation, and when COVID hit, I joined a charity that a friend started, which was helping bring food to frontline workers at the hospitals in an effort to get the first responders and the hospital workers fed when they couldn't take breaks, and to help keep the lights on at our friends' restaurants. And then people we don't know's restaurants. But when I told him about it, he said, that's really great and admirable. He said, but just so you know, Los Angeles is never going to be the same food-wise. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like after COVID, he's like, it'll never recover the same way. It'll never look like what it did. He's like, when 9/11 happened, even though we were in LA, it changed the way people went out. It changed the way people ate. And their sort of behaviors and patterns changed, and restaurants changed here. And so late night food is really dead in Los Angeles. And it's pretty dead in New York too. I mean, I was just there for a week, and it's really changed. All that to say, I would not bemoan the loss of Denny's for myself, because I would never eat there. But it does make me sad that new generations aren't going to be able, or might not be able, to have a cup of coffee and argue about art and flirt with the person that they saw at the party before and do all that stuff that's the coming of age sort of necessities that we had.
That's kind of where I was going. It's not that Denny's was the end all be all. It's the fact that after a club, you would go out to hang out with your friends. I mean, my late husband had so many stories about hanging out with his friends at Denny's after they went out. And
Or
it's like that was a rite of passage. That was something we all did. And I know we're going to be cutting on time. It hasn't binged yet, but what is your take? And I'm pretty sure I know what your take is about all the AI stuff. I mean, that's
yeah,
infecting every industry.
I I think it's really unfortunate. I mean, I think that outsourcing was killing domestic jobs, and then I think you know, not automation, but what the idea that you would replace people who bag groceries with just checkout counters, and uh, the words escaping me, but
Self checkout.
no,
Okay.
it's the larger sort of the larger idea about just replacing human jobs with technology. I mean, the problem with AI to me is I'm not a conspiracy based person, but like when you are watching a dystopian sci-fi movie, whether it's James Cameron's Terminator, whether it's like something based on a Philip K. Dick novel, whether you're watching Children of Men, which sadly I feel like we're living in all of them now. Like if you see the guy who's like, I'm going to take us to the moon, I'm going to take us to Mars, I'm going to revolutionize cars, I'm going to change the world, you don't look at that person and go, he's going to save us. You go, that's going to destroy us. And that's the four horsemen right there. So as it pertains to, AI, as it pertains to the consolidation of wealth and this sort of oligarch technocrat that worships machines and machine learning and the open AIs, the Groks, to me it's all incredibly scary and incredibly dangerous. Um because I love, while we're incredibly flawed, I invariably will always side with humans. I want something made by a human.
Hmm.
You know, if I look at like a guitar pedal that I have here, this one was made in Australia by a company that I really like. Yes, I found out about it on Instagram on a platform that we are all sort of strung out on and unfortunately have to use. But this is like made by hand by like a craftsman with an idea, and it's not like mass produced. And there's something beautiful about that because it allows me to take something from my computer, send it through my guitar pedals, and put it back in the computer and manipulate the sound. And I know who made this, and I know what his intentions were. And there's something special about that. When I hear music, I want to hear imperfection. I'm not interested in modern pop music, not because I think it's soulless or because I think it's five people in a room like making a meal instead of one chef. I don't care about any of that. And it may be a really catchy song, but the way that it's recorded isn't interesting to me because it's made like a Big Mac rather than like a bespoke hamburger pressed with human hands into a patty. Um, if I go for a smoothie, I don't want to go to Jamba Juice. I want to go to a place where I'm sitting there and I watch them put the ingredients in and I know that I'm getting the best of something from someone's intention. And so I guess what I'm saying is like, we will never connect to AI actors. We will never connect to AI music. We
Books.
will never books, any of it,
Hmm.
because it would anything that we found relatable would be a simulation of something that has been fed into a computer so that the machine learns what turns us on and then spits it back out. So, but at the same token, the fact that so many people do really love some of the music that's out right now that is inhuman to me, that is perfect, makes me realize because people love reality TV, You could put out reality TV right now. It could be all AI and no one would notice. You could put out pop music right now, and there is pop music on streaming services that people don't know is all AI or is partially AI. So there is a part of society that isn't going to care because it's just wallpaper music, or people aren't reading books anyways, but it's a film that they're watching or it's something they're scrolling. It's all content. So a certain part of society is going to connect to it. But those of us who crave something deeper, right, are always going to want it from a human hand, from a human ear, from a human mouth, from a human mind. And so I think it's incredibly destructive and dangerous. And I think it ties into the other conversation we were having about like
being present,
about all of it. Yeah.
I got about 2 minutes. Is there anything you want to add that we didn't discuss?
No. Was there a question that you didn't ask that you want a fast answer to?
I think I got everything. I think I covered everything.
It was really nice talking to you. It
was nice talking to you. I kind of want to second what Justin Warfield said about the fact that we were not two boomers going, get off my lawn. It wasn't about complaining. It was about the fact that we don't participate in life so much anymore. When we're out, we want to take video. We want to save everything for memories. And the fact is, are you actually ever going to go back and look at that? Is that really going to be something you're going to do? Are you doing this to influence somebody, to show somebody, look what I did? And yeah, I mean, I brought up Live Aid, and everybody knows I've gone to Live Aid. But thinking back to putting, if the different experience, if you took the crowd of people, I think there was like 90,000 people there. If you took all those people and you gave them a cell phone, and, you know, the fact of the matter is, at a certain point, there was no water. You know, there was nothing to drink. There was no ice. And to have anything to drink, especially being in the dead center crowd, they're passing milk jugs back of water. And you have the opportunity to have water, but there's only a couple of ways to do this. You can put your lips on a bottle that everybody else has put their lips on. Yes, talk about spreading disease. Or you can try to pour some out, which you're still, you know, at the time I'm 17, I'm not thinking anything about, hey, I'll just pour it out and get it that way. But there was also people that, and I tried to look stylish, I'm not going to lie, but that lasted about, you know, not very long because it was hot. Number two, somebody decided I looked hot and poured water all over me. And people were so very close. So the thing about holding up that camera and taking a selfie to say, look how I look, that would never have happened. And I think in the amount of people that were there, either cell phones were going to get stolen or it just wouldn't have happened. It wouldn't have been the same. You know, my generation, we didn't have the phone to hold up during a video or during a ballad. We would hold up a lighter. You know, even if you didn't smoke, you still owned a lighter just to go to a concert. But we all understand that things have changed. But if you're not participating in life and you're so worried about capturing it, or sharing it with the world, you're losing out on something. You're missing out on something. And so today, try to be present and be present in the moment, because that moment is never going to happen again. That moment is going to be fleeting. So appreciate what you have, appreciate all the people in your life, and appreciate the small things. You know, my dad was trying to explain to me the other day how hard it is because he can't hear now because of the tinnitus and he can't hear. And I explained to him about the fact that I was aware, it's not the same thing, but I was aware because, you know, driving down the road and going, look at the beautiful sunset. And my husband's like, I can't see it because he was legally blind. And so I would have to describe it to him. Or, you know, pull over, take a picture, and then blow the picture up so he could see it. So don't take for granted what you have because somebody else may not have it. And that's the same thing with experience. That's the same thing with everything we do. And while that may be the best sandwich ever that you're waiting to share, is it really going to matter to somebody else? You know, the one thing that we have become, and it's become very aware of me, and everybody's looking back at my stuff, I'm sure, going, well, you got to pop vinyl. And yes, I do. But I also look at some of that stuff, not so much the Barbies, because those were when I was a kid. But I'm actually questioning myself, and maybe this is because I'm getting older and going, how much stuff do I really need? Would I wait in line for a Starbucks cup? No. And are people waiting in line to sell that stuff? To buy it and then sell it online because, well, it's worth something. But who says it's worth anything? It's one of those things, and I know we touched on it lightly, but we didn't really go into it, is the fact that if you look at our housing market, that's a great example. When my father-in-law bought his house back in 1967, 68, somewhere in there, he paid $17,000. When he sold that house, it sold for, I believe, over $200,000. And granted, he had other houses after that. And that's a nice way to invest. But if you really sit down and think, and this goes across the board now, how is that house that most likely was, I hate to see what the price of it is now, but if you look at that house, we'll just say now, most likely that house, because of the location and everything, and because of how our market works, is $400,000, $500,000, $600,000. And who can afford that? Everything now has become a subscription. Everything now has become where you can't afford. And that's hard for all of us. And I guess what I'm trying to say is if we keep feeding the beast, it's going to keep being like that. And reality TV, which nobody really thinks about, is not really reality. It's edited to be a certain way. Sometimes it's scripted, or at least people are pushed to do certain things. So what is reality? Reality is what you live. It's not what somebody else tells you to buy. It's not something you see on TV. Reality is what you make it. And unfortunately, right now, reality is being pretty harsh for a lot of people. And so if my show or anything else that you enjoy, take those moments and enjoy them. Don't worry about filming everything. If you can go to a concert, enjoy the concert. Sure, take a picture or two. That's fine. But don't sit there the whole time and film it. Because just like acting, you have to live in the moment. And living in the moment is going to be something authentic for you. So, on that note, I'll get off my soapbox. Definitely check out the record. The record was one of those things where it is, how do I say? It was just a callback, like I said in the beginning of the interview, to the 80s. And Deathrock Devotional is what it's called. And I don't even know how to explain it because, yeah, it's kind of like Bauhaus, but it's got so many other elements in it. And I think it's important that you listen to it. And the thing is, and I know it's like, well, I had to look up the name, but that's because I put it on and I just listened to it. And I listened to it for like 4 or 5 hours on repeat. It just played over and over and over again. And I enjoyed it because it harkened back to my youth. So if you're into punk, if you're into Bauhaus, if you're into, I want to say Ministry a little bit, all those darker goth rocks, you most likely are going to like it. And if not, just check it out anyway, because you might find yourself bopping around just because. So on that note, I'd like to thank Fast Susie for the intro and outro music. I'd like to thank Justin for coming on. And most importantly, I'd like to thank you, the listener, for tuning in. And no matter when you're listening, I hope you enjoy the show. And I'll catch you next time, guys. Bye.